Got my water here. I'm comfy, sitting back in the chair, ready to go.
Nice. Something Oh, this is the wrong channel. Alright. So Blue, you want to get us started on you ready to
Hold
go?
on. All right, then let's start with an easy one. So what got you started with streaming or content creation in general?
Easy question.
Oh man, that's a tough question. Actually, I think this is kind of the normal answer or something that's pretty expected. I actually just got out of a really bad relationship and I was incredibly stressed and really, really lonely. And
Wow.
so I thought that I should start streaming. And from streaming, I was able to make friends and have a great time. So I was like, you know what? I want to continue with streaming. So basically, just, bad breakup, was really, really lonely, living out in the boonies, nothing else to do.
And it brought you to streaming.
And it brought me to streaming, yeah, because, man, I just love playing video games.
So, like, the thing that's probably different, the most different about you and us is probably that you're very big in fighting games, right? Like, you're like a fighting game guy, is like my image of you.
I wouldn't, I'm not like, I don't, you know what? I don't even know. I don't even know what my identity is, but yeah, I dabble
In
in
a
fighting
crisis.
games, yeah. Like, I would say if you go into a pool, like, my knees are there, my knees are in the pool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what got you into? But it's definitely a genre of game that you're very interested in, right? It's
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And what got you interested in that? Is there like a moment where it really like got you to?
The game that you were really into that really got you in there,
There's actually 3 different points that got me into fighting games. First, I was actually wrestling in high school. I know me, I'm very, very buff. You wouldn't expect it, but
Very swole. I've
know.
seen him in real life. Yeah, he's very swole.
I'm actually very, very skinny. I was like in a 121 weight class, I think. And I just liked, I don't know, 1v1. I was never a team sport kind of guy. So that kind of naturally reflected on video games as well when I saw Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the game, but the game is fantastic. And the movement options and like how the game looked and how crazy it was and so how hype it was is I needed to learn more about it. And then when I really learned about the intricacies of fighting games, how fast the move is, like the range of the move, but it's slow, so it's punishable, like that kind of stuff, then I really, really started to get interested in fighting games. So that's basically how I started.
And were you the guy that just like put just hours and hours? You had your own like fighting stick at home and just putting hours, yeah.
Yeah, I actually started on the pad at first, but when I saw the fighting stick, I was like, I just want to get one, and it definitely was a lot more fun and enjoyable to play on the fight stick, but it was just basically like learning how to walk again. So I basically went all the way back to 0. Yeah, and and I actually played a lot online. I never went to training mode, which is like something you have to do. So I was always really, really bad at fighting games. But it's still super duper fun, and the whole point is to have a good time, right?
Absolutely. So there's a question from chat right now, and I don't know what it stands for, but what does Ken think of the massive failure that is MVCI?
Oh, that's Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And when they showed the trailer, when I say Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I couldn't even believe that it was real. I was so hyped. It was wild. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna make a 4th one. This game is gonna be the best. Like, it's Marvel, baby. And then it was just a massive commercial failure. Unfortunately, nobody played it. They just kind of, it was like bad marketing. The graphics were terrible. There was no, I want to say sauce. There's no sauce in the game. Like, there was like all the comic book feeling of Marvel 3. It was gone. It was stale looking. It was really unfortunate, and it broke my heart. But I'm glad I didn't pay $60 for that game. Oh god.
I see. So like, I know that like my two images of you is that you're like a fighting game guy, but also you're also in commentating. Like you do events where
But
you
yeah.
commentate not just fighting games but other just games, right? And events.
Mm-hmm.
What got you into that?
Actually, I remember my first commentary gig. Oh, it was terrible. It
Let's
was
hear it.
So I think you might have heard of Evo Japan.
Yep.
And it's a part of the Evolution series, and it's a tournament series. Our brand, and it's supposed to be the most prestigious fighting game tournament in the world. They have the World Championships in Las Vegas every year, and that's like the biggest tournament for fighting games. And they started a Evo Japan as well, and they had a kind of test run called Psy. So that was my first commentary gig, just because they were looking for people. They're like, "Hey, do you think you could do it in English?" And I was like, "Sure." And that's how it really started my, I don't know, my dive into commentary, was because I was so bad at it that I couldn't feel proud of myself. I'm like, you know what? I have to get better.
Hmm.
And I loved Smash 4, and I wanted to talk about Smash 4 and let people know about Smash and then all these other games. So, and then one thing led to another, just also um, being lucky, being at the right place at the right time. I cannot stress how important that is, unfortunately. But being at the right place at the right time, and some people were just like, "Hey Ken, do you want to try this?" And like, "Hey Ken, hop on the mic." And next thing you know, got more and more practice, got more experience, and got to know more people, and that's how this commentary gig started happening.
What made it difficult? Like what I guess what about fighting games was or the commenting about fighting games made it really, like, I guess, difficult when especially since you said you weren't very proud of yourself for that. Yeah, what was the difficult part of that?
Well, I think, when you first go into anything, you got to learn how to crawl before you learn how to walk and run and jump. And it was just the amount of information that I needed to relay to the crowd that was watching while looking out for the next thing. So it's kind of like interpretation, where you have the first kind of sentence in your mind, and then you're listening and watching for the second one already while you're still relaying the first one. And I felt like that was really difficult for me. So I was kind of doing like and he did the thing, like it was really, really bad. And I just needed more experience, because as a commentator, what you're doing is you're adding value to the spectator experience, right? So what exactly is that value? That's what I needed to figure out as well with more experience. You're not just going to go in and you're not going to be a god, or you're not going to lift 500 pounds immediately. You got to work your way up.
So that it kind of connects to that, but Carmen MJ in chat is asking, does a commentator need to know all the moves and combos? Is that just the general knowledge thing that you need to know?
There is you need to know the game, and you need to know like the intricacies of the game. For Smash Ultimate, you need to know about like footstool combos, or like combo locking, like lock combos, that kind of thing. But you don't need to know every single combo, because that's also where the magic comes from, is when you see these professional players and they come up with this new setup or new combo, and then everyone goes crazy because they've never seen it before and they never show that tech. So it's like, at the same time, you're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." So you don't need to know everything, but you have to be able to explain, I would say, 90% of the game.
And you said like your first gig wasn't like the best, and then a Restful Capybara is asking, how'd you get better at it? Just rammed your place in there and got comfortable, or was there like a method that you practiced to get better at commentating?
I think taking notes and understanding the game more, playing the game more, definitely helps a lot. When it comes to just being able to relay what's on your mind, into words very smoothly, that just comes with experience and also confidence. When you get used to it, then it becomes easier, right? It becomes easier to do it. You get more confidence. It just flows off the tongue a lot more smoothly. And I think that's how it got a lot easier for me. I mean, it's still very difficult. I don't want to say it's easy, because I get nervous very easily, but it's definitely way different than when I first started. Also, it's very good, I would say, to kind of look at and kind of understand other commentators about how they do things. There's the guys who are very, very, very professional. You know, like they don't they don't use casual words or slang or anything like that. And then there's the guys who are just like really casual and they're going crazy and they're like singing songs while they're commentating and stuff. And I saw both sides and I'm like, which one do I feel more comfortable in? And I kind of found my spot in the spectrum.
When we saw you at Tokyo Game Show and you were commentating, you had the little like, what is it, like the air plushie things?
Yeah.
It was so kawaii.
Yeah. They were like, can you use these? And that's another thing with commentating as well. Like sometimes they'll have the products in front of you and you have to be able to chill very well. Like, I'm like, oh man, I'm thirsty. Like, I guess I'm just gonna open up this Red Bull, right? That's right here. Thanks, Red Bull. Stuff like that. Yeah. That's a really bad example, but you know what I mean.
I realized when you actually watching you actually commentate, it's not a one-person thing. You have another commentator next to you. Does that cause any? Because you have to have like perfect communication. Because we're a duo stream, but sometimes we like talk over each other, or is that? Do you guys like talk? Do you guys like have this kind of game plan before going in, or like how does that work?
Actually, at Evo and stuff like that, no. We're just like, hey, I'm gonna go in. And the only time that we actually coordinated anything was at the beginning, like, oh, who's going to take us in? Like the good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, like, who's going to say that? That was the only thing that we ever coordinated. It is a thing that could become a problem, especially when you work with so many different people with different styles. So I found that working with someone that's extremely professional was a little bit more on the difficult side for me. That doesn't mean that they're bad or I'm bad. It's just like, we have to kind of fit each other's styles, and being completely on the opposite side of the spectrum, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but it's still possible.
I see.
Like the talking over thing, sometimes you just feel it. You're like, wait, they're going to say something. But usually how it goes is like one sentence or like one statement, and then the other person will make a statement, then you make a statement, and the other person will make a statement, to keep it simple.
So there's definitely that chemistry that happens, right?
Yeah. And yeah, there is that chemistry that happens. With some people, it's excellent. With other people, you have to be more mindful of it. But I would say that I never had any significant problems before, except for maybe with one person. But that person was... I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah,
leave it there.
It just didn't match. You didn't. It wasn't a good.
Yeah,
match,
that's right. That's right. We didn't match. I like that.
Yeah. So,
wait, have you...
can I ask what Roy Nobody says? Does Ken have a signature tagline when he does commentary? Yeah, have your little.
Do I have a signature tagline? Before I used to commentate for video games, I used to actually be the MC for like a club.
A club?
Yeah, so I used to be that guy, everybody put your hands in the air, woo! Yeah, that was me. And then my hometown, Sasebo City, actually hired me for, city events as well, like, America and Japan Friendship Festival or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And people used to tell me that I used to say "all right" a lot. It's like, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, like, all right, we're back. All right." So I guess "all right" would be it, but
all right, that's a tagline. So you have to do that every stream now. When you start the stream, all right,
everyone.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think I have a tagline or anything like that. I don't have any sort of special quote yet.
Yeah. So everybody in chat that's gonna go check out the kuroken stream, make sure you spam "all right" when you.
All right.
All
right, Ken. What are we doing today? All right.
So that was about commentating, right? And I kind of want to ask about the fighting game scene in Japan, because right, what is that like? Is it still like a big thing in Japan? Would you say?
I would say yes and no at the same exact time. I think we have a different tiers when it comes to esports, especially when it comes to games like League of Legends and Rainbow Six Siege, and those are definitely like the top dogs in Japan. And I feel like fighting games are a little bit on the lower side, but they are starting to gain some traction. They are popular, I guess. in the overall term,
Mhm.
but when it comes to Japan, I feel like venue size is a big thing. You know, it might be that in America or maybe in the West, like these venues and stuff, they're quite big. They're very very spacious. Where in Japan, it's a little bit more restricted. So like the most people that can hold is about 30 or
Okay.
40. So in terms of like locals and stuff, it's a little bit more difficult. But for the overall scene, and there's not even been one time where I think I played a fighting game and I went online and had to wait. It's like instant.
Right.
So yeah. So I would say there's people always playing the game.
Like, how about like the actual arcade scene? Because that's huge here. Like to physically go to the arcade, right? And then
Yeah.
that, and I've like last time we went to Nakano, and then we saw like it's a really small place, but there was like a commentator. His mic wasn't plugged in because it was so small, but he
And
still
there's, like,
had a
couple
mic.
people
You know.
just like huddled up against like super old machine.
Yeah. Is that still a frequent thing at like local arcades here?
Was that like the fifth floor of Nakano Broadway?
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, that used to be a legendary spot.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It looked really like the people that know kind of place.
Yeah, it looked very like local.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question again? Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just
like-
thinking about that fifth floor spot.
like the physical arcade tournament scene.
Oh,
Is that still a huge
okay.
thing? Like,
I mean, unfortunately, with the rate of arcades closing, I think it's about 40 to 50 every year. I would say that arcades are becoming less and less prevalent, and we still have the games like Street Fighter 5, Samurai Showdown, Guilty Gear, Tekken, but the updates are actually coming out slowly to the arcades, so they're actually falling behind. They're laggy. I think you know what lag is. Like you push a button and then it takes time for the actual display
yep.
to show the button that you pushed. And there seems to be problems with that, and with the new technologies coming in. So I would say that unfortunately, the arcade scene is becoming less prevalent. But there are places like these arcade havens that are still keeping the arcade scene alive. For example, one in Takada no Baba, it's called Mikado, and it's very famous for Guilty Gear. So, and Sugamo for Tekken. There's scenes that are like keeping it alive, but I would say that it's definitely less prevalent.
Okay. Bob's Paintbrush is asking, does Ken think the fighting game community will keep growing, or is it slowly dying?
Right now, I think that it's actually growing. I think that it's growing because I think we're in the age of the internet, and there's a lot of information out there now. And, things like YouTube, people making content. And even with games that were made and then everyone thought they would just die, people actually made content for it. They made a scene, and then next thing you know, their game's at Evo. The game is called Unist. It's called Under Night in Birth Executable Latest. Yeah, that's a weird
Damn,
name,
dude.
So long.
but like that game, they thought it was whack. It was just crap, and no one's gonna play the game. But they like remade the game, and people started talking about it, and people making content, and then next thing you know, the game's gonna be at Evo again for the second year. So I think that it's growing, and I think a lot of people are interested in fighting games now, and they're kind of starting to see the intricacies of it. So I think it's growing, and I'm hopeful that it'll keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I've been asking a ton of questions. I was just like completely just like tunnel vision, want to ask all these questions. do you have a question you want to ask, Ken? You can pick one up from chat too.
So actually, I wanted to ask a question when you were talking about commentating. So sorry, can I go back and ask that?
Whoa!
So, oh no. You okay?
Sorry, that was my fault.
No worries.
Professional, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No scuff here. No scuff.
So what I wanted to ask is, I know it's not necessarily anything about games or anything, but
Okay.
one is, do you ever get to choose who you commentate with, or is that usually decided for you?
Oh, yeah. It's usually it's decided beforehand. It's predetermined, but usually the production and stuff like that will give us a little more wiggle room and freedom to be like, hey, they want to commentate this game or at this block, and I want to commentate early with them. Is that okay? We're all in agreement, and usually they're like, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that it's happened because of beef or anything like that, if that's what you were wondering. But it's just, like, hey, I want to try commentating with everyone at least once today. So that happened at Evo. And then so they switched the schedule so everyone could commentate with everyone, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, my other question is there usually like a dress code that you have to follow when you commentate?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or does it like matter
you know,
with events?
that is a really good question. Because I am always wondering the same damn thing every time. I would so it seems like there's people who dress like really casually, even for top eights at Evo. And, there's people who wear like straight up 3-piece suits. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't need to dress nice. And then everyone else is dressed nice. And then I dress nice and no one else is dressed nice. So it's just, it really depends on the event. There are some events where they actually say, dress nicely.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like I'm just going to rock a collared shirt. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when in doubt, you dress up more than you should dress down. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's a comment in chat here that Kijavi says and I actually had the same idea or kind of a question, and he says can imagine to make a stream in an arcade hall, and then to me I was like, I thought it'd be really cool if you like went around to arcades and then you like showed off the local arcade, like the physical arcades of Japan, and then maybe you play a game or whatnot. Like, is that something you've ever thought of, like to kind of like show off because I think people from overseas have this image of the Japan as an arcade culture, but they don't really know where to go, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you know a lot of arcades? Like, would you be able to do that? I think that would be fucking rad.
Yeah, I think that is a thing that's totally possible, especially with the IRL category being a thing, especially on Twitch. There's just a couple of problems, or I wouldn't say problems. One of them is a problem. The other one is just like another thing that's going on already. The thing that's going on already is a fighting game legend. I think Daigo Mihara, known as the God or the Beast, a Street Fighter. I think he's already doing a series where he goes to different arcades and shows like the arcade scene.
Okay.
And I think that's on YouTube. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but if you guys ever get a chance, check that out. Daigo Mihara does a lot for the fighting game scene, still does. And the one thing that with me, especially, unfortunately, I don't have that much clout or whatever within the scene. So if I do go to a arcade, especially with the camera, they might think that, like, hey, there's no recording in here. Get out of here. What are you doing? The kind of, filming laws and kind of common courtesy in Japan. And I'm not really willing to cross the line anymore of like, what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Right. So you would rather like actually get permission beforehand and then do it.
Absolutely.
I see. That makes sense.
Japan's very strict when it comes to video in arcades, so it would.
And I feel like they weren't that before, but I think with like the huge surge of tourists, like there's just so many tourists in Japan now, and I feel like, I think if I walk in when I used to IRL stream a lot more, and they would just like, hey, no, get out. And I would take a picture of my friend who's sitting at the cabinet, and it's just a picture and it's just us, but they're like, hey, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
So if somebody's visiting Japan and they're kind of into the fighting game scene, is there an arcade specifically that you would suggest to them? Like a hot arcade?
There are a couple. It really depends on which fighting game you actually want to play. There's different arcades for like the different fighting games, actually. Like ones that are famous for Guilty Gear, for like Mikado, for example. But I would say that if you just want to play arcade games and you want to play fighting games, but you also want to play like, racing games and old retro games, there's a spot in Akihabara. It's called Hey. 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 And I think that's the arcade that I spent the most time in, and it has like everything that you could want. It has so many arcade cabinets. It's awesome. Hey in Akihabara is my definite recommendation.
Everybody check out Hey if you're coming to Japan, if you're into the old school cabinet kind of arcade scene.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
So I have a question.
This is a machine gun of questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I've been wondering.
it's totally fine. Sorry.
We're just
So-
very curious about
Yeah,
shit.
we just have a lot of questions. But so our community have been asking me to get started in fighting games, but I've never played one ever, except for maybe Soul Calibur on GameCube, because
Oh, man, that was a great one.
my brother really wanted Link, so we got we got it for GameCube. But that's like the only fighting game I've ever played, and I don't think I spent a very long time playing it. So what would you recommend someone who's a beginner like me if I wanted to get started in it?
Actually, what's really cool with each fighting game, there's kind of its own mechanic, right? That kind of makes it kind of stand out from the crowd. And have you ever watched any fighting game like esport events or anything like that?
Yeah, Gray and I watched some Daigo videos and his tournament and stuff.
Yeah.
So, is there anything in particular when you're watching these videos or these tournaments, something that like kind of fascinates you?
I think
Kind of like the neutral, or like how the characters look, or
I'm character looks are very important to me, that's for sure. I mean, like how
I
smooth they move too, because I noticed is a little like choppy, especially the older ones. Which, I mean, of course, I know that there's like a charm to the older games too, but I would want something a little bit more fluid, maybe. I would want to play maybe as a female character, because I want to rock, girl character, yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's one
I
thing.
mean,
but I don't know much else. Yeah.
I think that a great fighting game for beginners is one that actually just recently came out called Grand Blue Fantasy Versus.
Oh.
You might know Grand Blue Fantasy,
do.
the gacha game.
Yeah.
Mobile game. They actually came out with a fighting game, and I feel like it's really easy for beginners to pick up and kind of begin to grasp the concepts of a 2D fighting game, about like, how long your moves are, how slow they are, blocking and punishing, for example. So I feel like if you like, anime art, I think the game is absolutely gorgeous.
You were streaming that, right, recently?
Yes, I did stream that recently, yeah. So that's one that I would definitely recommend to you. If you want a fighting game with a really robust tutorial, and it's... Oh, wait, is it because I said bust? What was the laughing
So
for?
sorry, I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna mention something else.
You think Ken and you think anime boobs.
He's gonna talk about
that's
boobs,
what it is,
yeah. Anime
No,
boobs.
The robust boobs. The robust
Come
bust.
on, you really think I'm that? God, man, you guys think I'm that degenerate? Come on now.
Yeah, I mean the D-Gen process is good. Go on, sorry, we completely.
I mean, if that's what you're looking for, Dead or Alive 6.
Yeah,
Dead or
that
Alive.
I know.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm noting that one down.
But if you want one with a really robust training mode, or like training, tutorial, Under Night in Birth executable latest is the one that I would recommend. And just wait for it to go on sale, and it kind of teaches you a lot about fighting games, almost all the concepts of a fighting game. Yeah.
So we got a question first I'll start with Capybara. Okay, Capybara is asking, what do you think of Smash Melee purists?
What do I think about Smash Melee purists? That's a hard question, because I don't want to get killed in my sleep. So.
All right, next question.
Next question.
So I think that was a good enough answer, I would say. A two-parter. Part one, do you feel that the fighting scene was stable or declining before Grand Blue Fantasy Versus has came out?
The state of the fighting game community?
Yeah, do you think it went up, or is it declining, or is it stable, or...
Well,
did it change the scene?
with the release of a fighting game, I would say almost any game, I would say 90% of the games, is that, they have a massive player base when they first release, and then over time it starts dwindling, right? People get tired, people move on, that kind of thing, right? And So I think that it wasn't dying. It's just like, people just start to lose interest. They want the next game or they want the next patch to come out. So I feel like, it has its ups and downs where, massive increase and then slight decrease over time. There are some fighting games that actually do gain members in the community over time. For example, Tekken 7, where it increased drastically. But I feel like, just like anything else, when something new releases, there's a lot of people behind it, and then the hype kind of dies down just a little bit, and then new patch, new character, new game, whatever it may be, and then it goes right back up.
I see. And I guess
Yeah.
that kind of links to the second question that Rock the Akuma has is what's the typical lifespan of a popular fighting game?
What's the typical lifespan of a popular fighting game? I mean, Melee is 15 years old. There's also fighting games that were really popular. As, for example, Samurai Showdown was quite popular when it first released. Now, I would say not many people play it anymore. But that could be incorrect about these numbers. But so it just really depends on the game. I mean, Tekken 7 is just getting really popular now over its 5-year lifespan, and then Street Fighter 5 had only a 5-year lifespan planned. So I would say it just really depends on the community, and that's why we always stress, if you like a game, just play the damn game. Like if you like it, just play it because someone out there wants to play it too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Kajavi's asking, so with the fighting games, especially you got like Dead or Alive with the DLC thing that that people were mad about. But what do you think about all the
yeah.
DLCs in these fighting games? You think it's justified? Do you think what do you think?
I mean, I'm always one of the people who don't like when DLC is announced before the game is released. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's kind of weird, and honestly, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, dude. It seems really sleazy almost
Yeah.
when
Yeah. Or like, locking a popular character behind DLC. But the thing also is that with the way that games are being developed now, graphically, it's just so expensive, right? It's just so expensive to develop a game. There's so many games coming out. It's a huge risk. So I feel like if the DLC is nice, I'm talking about like Iceborne, for example, Monster Hunter. Iceborne is like 100% worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
there's just some DLC that's just like absolutely amazing. And then there's also DLC where it's like, hey, there's one color for a character. That's $6. Like I'm like, are you kidding me? Or the infamous Elder Scrolls one. I think if you wanted to make your horse's armor black, it's like $5.
What?
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just the DLC. It's yes and no. There's always like outliers, right? There's always like yes, and then there's always like, oh, this sucks. It's just the way it is, unfortunately.
I guess it's kind of the same like with the system of like Final Fantasy 14 like glamour. Like you can buy glamour, but those glamours are like really well thought out. They're like beautiful every time. It's not
Yeah.
like just a color change or anything like that,
Mhm.
So
And then there's
yeah.
the cat that's like $30 or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth.
Totally worth, dude. All right, there was a question that everyone's asking some really really good questions.
Oh yeah,
yeah, if you
Kokopon
want.
has a question. So, why do you think MK11 didn't make Evo?
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, am I allowed to talk about this?
You
So
actually know the deets, huh?
no, I don't know the deets. It's just like I don't want this to be like Illuminati comes down and attacks me or something. But there is, I mean, I think especially when it comes to Evo, it is a tournament, and a lot of people from all over the world go to these fighting game tournaments, and there's a lot of advertising money to be spent there. I mean, so many people tune in to watch Evo. I mean, in the millions overall, and it's just such a huge viewer base, right? So there's a lot of advertising money there, and there's a lot of money to be made behind the scenes, and I feel like maybe it's just we'll never know the truth. We'll never know the truth, but it is very odd that Mortal Kombat 11 didn't make it in to me.
Mhm.
And suddenly they're like, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is back. And we're like, what? It's a little weird. So I feel like it was like at the very end, like some sort of business deal maybe didn't go well.
Mhm.
And they were just like, you know what? No, it's over. That's my opinion on it. That's just my speculation. I don't know if it's true, but it could be at the very end. It's just like they didn't agree on some terms, and boom, bada bing,
Mhm.
Mortal Kombat 11 didn't make it.
I see. Shuffling
Mhm.
321's asking, knowing that Ken started streaming with Doki Doki Literature Club, what is your favorite
Okay.
anime game after so many years? What's the anime game for you?
What is my
yeah.
favorite anime game? I mean, define anime because I guess Marvel could be anime, right? And there's like anime characters like Dante in it.
It could be fighting, it could be
Yeah,
any it's up to you. It's up to you, like what you think is. Oh, by the way,
I think
Shuffling says you better say Steins Gate.
I was gonna say Steins Gate. Like if it's like purely visual novel, like no fighting game or anything like that, then I think Steins Gate. I think that anime game, a visual novel, it depends on what you see as a game or not.
Hmm.
But that story is like, I don't think I'll ever forget that story. If you have not
Okay.
experienced Steins Gate, you need to. You please experience it. It's so amazing.
I think that you were actually streaming Steins Gate when we first like that first RE2 stream where you rated and then you were streaming Steins Gate and then I was
Oh, really?
yeah, I was
Yeah.
watching that stream, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Oh, so you guys saw me cry then.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, hey, Ken rated us. We should check him out. Oh, he's crying. Seems like a good guy.
So we asked Toph this, and now that we're all kind of on the topic of like streaming, was there
Yeah.
ever a moment for you where you thought, I'm done with streaming, I don't want to do this anymore?
Multiple.
And what were those moments, if you can talk about it?
Mainly just, well, I don't want to. I just like. There's so many people who preach about this, especially streamer, Twitter. Everyone's saying that like, oh, I'm so righteous, I'm so pure.
Mhm.
But like, there was also a moment where I got caught up in numbers as well, you know.
Mm.
And I think it's very easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where my channel took a really big nosedive. I have no idea why. I still don't know why to this day. It's probably because I started feeling that way. And
Yeah.
like, I don't want to stream. I don't want to stream because my numbers are so bad.
Yeah.
And I guess it reflected on my performance. And there was a huge dip in like all numbers. And it was really, really depressing. And there's just another time where I just felt like, I don't know, there were just no good games out or something. This
Yeah,
one was
yeah.
just dumb. And I'm like, dude, I just don't want to stream anymore. Like, I don't want to play these games. I want to play something good. But there's always a good game out there. And of course, there's just also personal things that I was dealing with, school. And I think there's one moment where I took a lot on my plate. And it was too much for me to handle, like programming and like dealing with like other work stuff. And it was too much.
Mhm.
And I was like, why am I streaming? Like, I need to do this other stuff, but I gotta focus on the stream. And it just made my, it was just a huge headache. So there was
Yeah.
only about a couple times, but I would say those were like the major things: numbers and being stressed out, and just
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know, maybe that last one was like kind of being burnt out as well with the video games,
Mhm.
like feeling a little burnt out.
What to do to overcome that kind of burnout, or like when you felt like, there weren't that many like games that you wanted to stream, or maybe you hit that plateau.
Mhm.
Like what you do to overcome that?
I know I can't really say exactly when the moment was like it just made me 180. Like I can't remember the exact moment, but it was just basically I would say it's the community and just how cool they were. And I was like, you know what, streaming is really fun.
Mm.
And just going to these different events as well, like the fighting game events, and like seeing the communities there. I'm like, you know what, communities are a really good thing. I'm actually having a good time. I was just having being stressed out about other factors. So that's how I turned it around, or changed a thing or two, changed the game I was playing, for example. Just changing one thing could really do a lot to make your mind a little more positive or change the way that you're thinking.
I have two questions. One is they're separate questions, but I think they're kind of similar. But one, if somebody was watch your stream, right, and they wanted to start streaming, what would you like? What is there any advice that you would give them if they came up to you and said, "Hey, Ken, I want to start streaming. Do you have any advice? Whether it be
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just
Turn
do
that
it.
camera on.
Turn that camera on. Make that YouTube video. Whatever. Just do it, because people are like, I want to start. But like, if you're gonna start and you want to do something, you gotta start first, right?
Yep.
So don't do it. You don't need like the best equipment. Like you don't need, dual PC, whatever, the most fancy graphics. Just start doing it and start being dedicated, and then learn a little bit more about what you want out of it. Like if you want to be a little bit more dedicated, or if you just want to do it purely as hobby. But the number one thing is, when I say that, is just don't do it for the cash, because it's definitely
It's
not
gonna
there.
be there, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there. So.
And
Yeah.
Stoic Gaming X actually says, "I'm glad you're doing this interview. I'm getting a stream set up soon myself. What would you recommend as a starter setup of
A
like
starter setup?
yeah, like if someone's starting streaming, what would you like the borderline like you should get this?"
Well, maybe like for the standard stuff, I would definitely just say, what is that? Logitech C920?
Yeah, the
I
webcam.
believe this. Yeah, Logitech C920. If you want a webcam, some people don't. That's completely fine. A Blue mic. There's, I think there have been cheaper alternatives as well. There's a lot of Google research that you'll need to do yourself. You can't do everything. And then get yourself a good computer that can handle OBS and what game you're streaming. And I think that's really everything that's absolutely needed.
Yeah, I mean, we started streaming on a MacBook webcam, so it's
With a PS4.
yeah, and then we like prop it up on the on his toy box.
No, yeah, our first stream was we had because we don't have a TV and we have a projector, and so it's just a shot of me on our couch looking up at my projector. So it's like this weird shot from me and my like chin, and it's from a PS4 camera.
Yep.
I mean, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You gotta start
Absolutely,
somewhere.
dude. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
our first streams were like scuffed as hell.
Yeah, it was so scuffed.
Yeah.
But you know what? I respect that, because you started doing it.
Yeah. Start anywhere.
It was so scuffed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then the second one is, so that was about streaming, but what if someone is trying to get their foot into commentating? Is there any
Into
advice?
commentating.
Yeah, is there any kind of advice that you'd give somebody?
So I guess with commentating, it's a little bit more dependent on your location, but I would definitely say, go to your local and then talk with your locals there. Like, it depends on what game you're playing, of course. I'm not 100% sure how like the shooter FPS community works, for example. But if you're playing fighting games, go to your locals and like talk to the tournament organizer or the organizer of the event. Be like, hey, I kind of want to dip in commentary. I get the game, I understand the game. Make sure you understand the game.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, I want to start doing this. Is it all right? And then you just talk with them, work it out with them, see if you can start putting yourself out there just a little bit. I think that's the number one thing. You just have to get experience on the mic, and then after a while you'll just get used to it.
Again, it's just do it. Just try it out.
I mean, definitely just do it. There's no other way. You're gonna have to start, right?
I have
You're gonna
something
have to
to
start.
sorry, I have something to add to that. But so if you want to do commentating in Japan, does it require a basic knowledge of Japanese, or is it? Do you not need to know?
That's actually a pretty good question. What I found actually is that if you go to these Japanese events, if you actually talk with them, they'll actually allow you to maybe bring your own equipment, for example, maybe like a laptop or something with your own mic, and you can actually get their feed without their commentators, and then you can stream their video feed, and then with you commentating over it. So that's kind of like working with the Japanese community. So we just did a Grand Blue Fantasy Versus event over at the Red Bull Gaming Sphere, and some Japanese guys were actually asking us, hey, if we bring our own equipment, can we just get your video feed and we can commentate in Japanese? And we're like, yeah, sure, absolutely. That'll get more people out here. So they just came up to us and had a short discussion about how it's going to be possible, how they would do it, and they would bring their own equipment, and boom, bada bing, like they're on their way, and they can start practicing their commentary.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this next question is it's really interesting. I think we can actually, all three of us can answer this. But Ebo's asking, any advice for someone that's never been to a con or meet and greet? What's the best way to approach the anxiety or excitement of getting to meet your mods or online friends?
I would say that actually I kind of have the same problem, and I kind of noticed that it's kind of like being at the club.
Nice.
And like you're at the club and you're like, man, I want to talk to this person, but you're like, oh man, how do I look? Like, oh man, I'm gonna bother them, and then 99% of the time they're thinking the same exact thing. Like that other person is thinking the same exact thing, and that's what I feel like a lot of cons are like too. I mean, I haven't gone to an extensive amount of cons. As long as that person's not, I don't know, busy with anything, like they're shaking hands with somebody, they're in a business meeting, or they just lost at a tournament and you're like, hey, what's up? If it's not at the wrong time, then I feel like it's totally okay to just be like, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah from blah, blah, blah. I think that's the greatest way you can introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and, don't make it like a mystery. Like, hi. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, who are you? Like, hi, I'm kuroken, and I've been like in your channel for a long time. Or like, hi, I'm kuroken, your mod. And they'll be like, oh, what's up? So
I mean, the first time we hung out, you invited us to your mod's birthday party. So
Yeah.
wait, I can't even remember.
You did.
Yeah, man, and to Prom's birthday party.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
And
was
that's
the
how we
first time
met
we hung
Prom.
out, yeah. And it's just
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Prom's a cool dude, and we're like, on the friendly level, like personal level, because we were friends from
Yeah.
university. So, yeah.
And like for us, like we meet people on stream all the time, and it's just you just realize like online friends are just friends, even better than IRL friends sometimes. So like the barrier they think is there is actually doesn't exist, because like, yeah, we stream, but streamers aren't like, hey, we're the best, like, you can't talk to me or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all just people, right? So
Like the first initial, like, because usually when you meet a stranger, there's that awkwardness you have at first. But I think meeting people, especially if you've already talked to them online, you don't have that awkwardness anymore. So a lot of times, like, you meet one of your viewers for the first time, it's just like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
welcome to Japan. What do you want to go eat?
the whole
Kind thing.
point
So
of
it's just
content creating is that anybody could do it. So we're anybody, right? And so like, and it's so we're just the same as the people that you meet at school, the people that you meet at work. Like, we're everybody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just say hi and just say who you are.
Yeah.
And I think once you get over that initial, kind of nervousness, then you'll see that it's not really so bad. It's always a lot easier to say than to do, but like, trust me, I think that it'll become easier over time, and you're not going to regret it.
Absolutely. I mean, we met like people that we're closer with, that people that moved to Japan, and we hang out with them, and it's like and people that just visit and stuff, and I see them as closer friends than like most of my IRL friends, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's just we're just friends, just like at school, so
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the water cooler at work.
I think the most fun part is because a lot of times when we meet those people, we don't know what they look like, but they know what we look like.
Yeah,
A lot of it's like, we're
yeah.
just standing there like, I wonder what that person looks like.
Yep. And then they'll just come up to you and be like, hey, Ken, or like, hey, Blue, hey, Gray. You're like, it does not look like.
Yeah.
You just like, you have no image of them, but you're like, wow, this is not how I imagined that you look like. Wow.
Yeah.
we have to
Every
have them
time.
DM us a selfie, and even if they don't take a selfie, we're like, take one and send it to us right now, because we're hanging out either way. So that's what it is. And okay, I'm super shy, and I started streaming after I had a 7-month hiatus, and I almost cried because people on my Discord and other streams I watched showed up. I almost broke down over beating my stream anxiety, and I felt huge burden lifted from my shoulders. Blluist, what is the ideal streamer mentality? Oh, that's a good one. Ken, what's the ideal streamer mentality, dude?
The ideal streamer mentality. With that, I don't think that there is an ideal mentality, just because there's so many different types of streamers. You know, people who are super duper chill, people who just go hype constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, but like good stuff to them. But I also feel like, you know, you got to realize that you're just there to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Like, you're there to play video games or do IRL and hang out with people. And I think also it kind of sucks to say, but I think it's also important to just have a little bit of the tough skin, the thick skin, because you are exposing yourself to the internet. And, you know, I think that does put a lot of pressure on some people, and, you know, you're going to get some trolls from time to time, but you're going to have to be able to, you know, kind of just wipe it off and then continue on. But the number one thing is, I think you have to realize that you're there to have a good time, and the people who are watching you are there to have a good time and hang out.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important thing.
For me, I guess it's majority wise, people are there because they like you. And yes, the negative comments are always louder, so it might get you. But if your chat is full of trolls and it's just really toxic, it reflects on what kind of stream you're doing. I think it reflects. Sometimes you get raided by trolls or like bots or whatever, and that's a different story, right? But if it's constantly, if your core community is toxic, it probably means that you're being a little toxic yourself. It reflects on who you are. So
yeah,
build a stream that you want to, like the streams that you like, and just almost mimic them, and then it will be the stream that you want. And and I think, be wholesome, you'll get wholesome response, and never forget that 99% of the people that are in your stream are there because they like you. Don't let that 1% ruin it or have a bigger voice than it should, because it's that 1%. 99 are there because they want to hang out with you, is my mentality.
You know, exactly what you just said. I think that's so important to understand too. Exactly, like the type of stream that you have, that's the type of people that are going to be drawn to it. So there's that mentality as well, where, like, you know, if you want to be super toxic, then and that's your ideal streamer mentality, then, you know, expect toxic people to show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Blue? What's the ideal streamer mentality?
I mean, I think, especially, and also the fact that because you are the streamer, you are in control. And so if somebody does really leave toxic comments, or maybe they're always negative, it is within your right to ban them, because it is your stream, and it's up to you and what you want to make the rules. And so you can make it, like, if it's really, really bugging you, like, no, I think, and especially if you have a community full of people who really, really like you, I think if you ban someone for being negative all the time, or all they can say is really toxic stuff, I bet your community will back you up.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's so true. You know, especially with streamers that are starting out, it's just like, yeah, but it's another viewer and I don't want to get rid of them. You know, I think it's really easy to fall into that trap too, because I did it. But then
same here, man.
I was
same here.
Yeah, and you know what? You gotta press that ban button, because in the end, it's gonna make you feel so much better.
Absolutely.
I think it also affects the community too, because people in your chat are not gonna like that either. Yeah. And so if people who are watching aren't having a good time because of this person, then like what's more important, like the one extra viewer or the people who are in your community already?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's also important to know that people have different personalities depending on what stream they're in. So they might be really wholesome in yours, but they might be really toxic in a place where it's okay to be toxic. And so it's up to you to really create the atmosphere and the weather of your stream, and they will act accordingly or they'll leave. And if they don't want to be like that, then it's. And Kajavi's asking, does Ken have a tip to make a stream comfy?
Do I have a stream to make a? Do I have a tip to make a stream comfy?
Sub up, dude.
That'd probably be not the best tip. I don't know. I don't think my stream is the most comfy of all, but I would definitely say that just play the game that you like. Because the game that you like, that's gonna draw that, you know, the community from that game as well, and from that community, you're gonna find some sort of comfiness. There's people who are just playing, like, even FPSs. They're just playing the FPS, but they got that really calm voice, and all they're doing is playing the FPS, and it's still comfy because of the vibe that they give off. And I even know a Monster Hunter World streamer who they don't talk and they don't use a webcam, and that's comfy just because, like, the community is really nice and they're always talking about how everything's comfy.
Yeah.
So I think that just playing the game you like, and I guess, of course, not being toxic, because that's the opposite of comfy, is gonna make things comfy.
People really react to when you're like purely enjoying a game, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
You
it's
react really well.
also very easy to tell, I think.
Yeah. Blluist says just drop your voice about an octave or two and put on some smooth jazz. Put on just
I mean, there's also the ways of making it really comfy like that.
yeah, like physically comfy. Amiibo says, how do you cope with trolls? I understand people have mods. Unfortunately, his Streamlabs is broken for me. We have to do manual removals and warnings. It's always impresses me how you and all the other Isekai members handle trolls. I admire your lovely community and aspire to be as cool as you guys. We rarely have mods in our.
We don't.
in
Yeah,
our
we
chat.
don't really have a lot of mods, and we've been very fortunate not to get a lot of trolls. And I think it helps since we do. It is a co-stream, and so especially when, you know, Gray's here and I'm playing the game, I can depend on him to make sure that even if maybe I can't necessarily go to my keyboard and stop the gameplay, he will be there to ban trolls for me. Or even if I'm by myself, it's not too difficult because you can just press a button. And so we've been fortunate not to get like a ton of trolls where it got very difficult to manage or anything.
And it's like you can play with them a little bit, and then but there's that definitive line where it's just like you don't want to make that stream all about that. And if the troll is actually really creative, I'll kind of actually play along. But usually trolls are super unoriginal, and it's just like copy pasta bullshit. So like it's just not even fun to interact with them. They're not even like worth like kind of scraping the content out of them, I guess. Yeah, how about you, Ken?
How do I cope with trolls? I feel like it depends on the troll as well. There's the people who are like, I don't know, like, oh, you think this is hard? I beat this in 5 minutes, you know, like those type of guys. I'm just kind of like, just shut up, and then like I just, I just tell them to be quiet, and then, or just completely ignore them. And I feel like completely ignoring them is actually the best.
Yeah.
Like, actually just completely ignoring them, and if they keep going, then you address it. But most of the times, it's just like you just leave them alone, and then they just quit trying to flex most of the time.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, you know, saying really abusive, like racist things, then of course I just ban it immediately.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And then how I used to do it back in the day, I was a little more wild back in the day, but like I would actually like call them out, and then I would play, like, was it Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune music? And I'm like, all right, you have one freaking chance to say anything interesting at all, or you get banned. And then like good. I'm like, okay, you know, high quality trolling. That's it. That's the only thing we allow here. If it's gonna be a troll, it's gonna be high quality.
It better be.
And then next thing you know, they're getting banned. Bang. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I think
there was a point where I would just like mess with the troll so much, Blue had to stop me, because like I would just like keep going, and then it would be like the chat would start trolling the troll, and then it would.
And it just got too much, and so we had but we
Yeah,
realized that wasn't really a good idea either, because then it takes away from everything else, and all of a sudden, like nothing's about the game, or even like maybe what we were talking about, it just becomes like just all trolls and just very negative, and so.
And that's what they want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Copy pasta sauce with bullshit all over it. Oh, Schleb's in chat. What's up, Schleb? Yeah, but I think trolls they're always gonna be there, and if anything, they'll spice up the chat for like a millisecond, and it's really like a testament of like how strong your community is to be okay with that, and like for the most part, everyone's really supportive, so I think it's good.
Yeah. I've noticed that, yeah. And it's like, again, being thankful for the community, because when they see a troll, most of the time they'll be like, imagine being that guy, or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. Or does Dan's game it? I'm like,
Yeah.
proud of you guys. Proud of you guys.
I'm proud of you guys. Yeah, man. So, is there anything that you want to advertise? Something that maybe a stream coming up, something special you're doing, or this is the part where you chill out and just say, hey, like, come watch the kuroken stream.
Oh, no. I mean, make sure you guys subscribe to Blluist. Blluist, they're on that grind. I hope you guys can keep supporting them. They work real hard. And trust me, I know them in real life. So it'd be great if you guys can continue watching them and supporting them. And if you're busy, at least you guys can leave that lurk. They're close to partnership. I know you guys are. Get them to partner.
Thank you.
But if I had to show one thing, if you guys are ever in Tokyo, consider coming to one of the events that I help work at. Fighting Tuesday, it's free, and it's at Nakano Red Bull Gaming Sphere. And from time to time, we have the Grand Blue Fantasy versus events as well. That's the only thing that I want to show.
You should do. And everybody, if you're not following or sub to kuroken already, what are you doing? All right, shout out to kuroken. All right, definitely gotta check out. Wait, you're playing 9 right now?
Oh, I want to start Final Fantasy 9 tomorrow.
Oh shit! Right. He's gonna be playing Final Fantasy 9 with my boy Zidane. Yeah. Okay, where's my Zidane?
Right. I actually don't remember Final Fantasy 9 like at all, so I want to replay it.
Is that your favorite?
Final Fantasy 9 is my favorite. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right then. I'm gonna. If it's not the best game ever, I'm gonna be very angry.
Oh my goodness.
Hey,
yo, Major coming in with a 10-tier what's up? Let's
Thank
get
you so
baby.
much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, dude. Dude, Ken, thank you so much for doing this, dude. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely, dude. And we'll hang out again in real life too, right?
Yeah, we gotta have our
degenerati
boys' night.
And also, are we going to that Final Fantasy 7 Skytree thing?
Was it Skytree thing or was it Cafe at Akihabara?
Oh, I don't know which one, but we're down either way. So
okay,
we'll see you then, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Everyone, say bye to kuroken. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, thank you so
much. All
much.
right, guys. Again, thanks for having me. Everyone, keep watching Blluist, okay? Be good. Be good.
Thank you so much.
Be good.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Good night.
Bye.